Welcome to the Retail Tech Podcast, where I speak with the movers and shakers in the global retail and commerce industries. Today, I'm speaking with Lynn Tousignant, VP of Experience Strategy and Marketing at a company called Valtech. How are you today, Lynn?
I'm very good, thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. Lynn, if you can tell me about your background and how you got into retail, and now with the new role of experience strategy and marketing, a little bit about what that actually means.
Sure. Personal background. I've been working in marketing for since the beginning of my career, working both in media and advertising agencies in Canada, then at one point I decided to do consulting. And what brought me to retail a lot is that I worked with a French company that was doing trends forecasting in consumer behavior, especially in the fashion and beauty industry. And I work, while doing this, I work with most of the retailers in Canada and work for a little while also in New York with some other retailers here. And things evolving. At one point, I had a startup that was also related to the industry, and I met someone at Valtech, which led me eventually to work with them. So that's for the background. And what the title is, you were asking, experience, strategy, and marketing. It is really a focus on helping customers to really innovate in terms of their strategy, sometimes B2B, but very often B2C. And experience, because I lead the creative team, which means design and, of course, UX, user experience, and CX, customer experience, and marketing, because we are really a full stack agency, which means that we also help our customer building content for digital strategies and even sometimes traditional.
Okay, so is your role based in the US or like in North America, or is it all across? Because I know Valtech does a lot of work in Europe, of course.
True.
Right.
Yes, Valtech is a global company. My role is mainly in New York, at least officially, because I quite regularly I am involved in more at the North American level and even sometimes at the global level. But we have, of course, our teams in terms of strategy that are in Europe too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's experience, strategy, and marketing. I mean these are like other than technology and the actual product itself, this is what makes a business successful or not. So this is a pretty heavy load that you're carrying.
Yes, you maybe you can see this, but I think that more and more what we see in the retail industry, as we all know, has been suffering a lot over the last few years, and it's because I would say it started a bit before 2000, where you had many different triggers that were related to technology, but those triggered, it can be the one click from Amazon to after the smartphones and many other, advancement in technology had an impact on the consumer behavior. So as a result, the companies that did not follow this started really to have real problems and real difficulties, while you also saw the emergence of companies that were, pure play digital. And the difference between both, I would say, was that there was this focus on the customer, because the technology is, to me, and I mean to us at Valtech, not only to me, but really for the team, the way we see it is, the technology is an enabler, but the focus is really the customer. And with the customer that is very present in each omni-channel and where we can have some data, then we are able to consider that the data coming from the consumer is the main source of information that allow to really enhance the value proposition and create the customer experience.
Right. So
Long answer, but
no, it's. I mean, this is very. It is. It's a very important part of the business, and one of the things that I think about often is just what the statement that you made is that retailers and in general businesses really think that technology is an enabler. And I think for the past 20 years, maybe more, but past 20 years, especially because of the internet and mobile, that was really a total statement that would cover things. But I think things might change from my own perspective is technology is an enabler, but it is such an important enabler, but that if you term it that way, you're not giving it enough importance. Technology, if you don't have the technical side of the business covered, you have no business anymore. It doesn't matter
yeah.
what you're in. So,
And I agree with this
right.
totally.
Yeah, so I think maybe the terminology or something that because when you go into a boardroom of I don't know any corporation and they say okay well technology is an enabler, the CIO is CTO is are going to take care of it. I think that's the wrong approach. That's why retailers that's not the discussion in Amazon's boardroom. you know they they
Yes,
they all talk. I mean technology, because without the technology you're not going to get anything done anymore.
I agree. So maybe let me explain a bit further because I'm totally in agreement with you. I think that when I say that the technology is an enabler, is that it is to basically put the emphasis on the fact that any retailer, I would say even any company, should be totally focused on the experience that they want to create. And once they define this, and it's impossible to do this without thinking about how we will, achieve this, how we will do this. And this is where the technology comes into play. And the reason why I'm putting this as this way is that I've seen so many times discussions with companies, and they look at it and they look at what they want to create, and then they look at the technology they need to create it, but it's kind of a piece by piece, and it's a very big mistake because they don't do this kind of step of focusing first on the customer experience and putting the technology aside. They try to put the technology first because they say, oh, the technology is so important.
Right.
It is definitely, but it has to have a purpose. You don't want to do technology for technology, but of course technology needs to be embedded in each and every touch point nowadays.
Right, right. And yeah, I definitely agree with you as well. It's like technology by itself is not going to be useful for the customers. And if
Yeah.
you don't really do your investigation and testing into the customer experience, you're going to have the best technology, which is not going to be useful. So they're definitely going hand in hand, and I think that's really the key to success for the future. The businesses that are going to survive is to be able to balance these two at the same level of experience and how they're integrated together. And
Yes.
that's where I think, and this is what one of my pet peeves is that the biggest problem with retailers is that their CEO is not a technical person. They have no idea about, I mean, they know about technical stuff, but they're totally dependent on their technical team to tell them everything about technology. And
And
that's not
yeah.
going to work anymore,
No, and
unfortunately.
the technical team is focusing on the technology, not on the customer.
Right,
And this is where you get this kind of disconnection, and it
right,
creates a lot of problem. Instead of being really focusing, how can we, something that I often say to our customers, how can you create an experience for your customers that is totally frictionless? Because the customer don't care about how you do it and what is behind it. They just want to have the best experience possible, and they want they want it to be as easy as possible.
Right.
Which is, if you think, you were mentioning Amazon, you see, saying this is not how they think at Amazon. At Amazon, they are removing friction. If you think about, this delivery on the same day, there are many things that sometimes you don't even realize it is a friction, but once it is gone, you don't want to go back.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's it. And it's amazing how one click can make a difference for people.
Yes, yes.
From a developer's point of view, a lot of times I've seen that they just do things the way they used to do, and it just adds another click, another step, another step. And I always go back and say, okay, we need to remove as many steps as possible. Go back,
Yes,
remove. So,
definitely.
yeah. So now Valtech, just again quickly on Valtech is a an agency, right? Is that basically how is it a digital agency? Is that how you describe it?
Yeah, I would say the way that I like to describe Valtech, Valtech is a digital agency, but the way I see it, Valtech started first by being a company that would build, e-com, will work with e-commerce platform, manage. It was all about platforms, the e-commerce, the CMS, and then over time, it started to evolve where we started to offer more services. And then there was the creative services and then all the strategy. And the reason I think why Valtech is different, it's because it started digital to then expand to more, let's say, traditional services or something that is really more focused on strategy, comparing to the traditional advertising agency that are starting with the traditional side and then trying to become digital. And they also have some difficulties, the same way that traditional retailers, it's more difficult to become digital. While for us, when we talk with our customer, we have internally this expertise that we exactly know what is possible from a technical point of view.
Okay. So now there was a report that Valtech just came out. It's I think it's called the 2018 Retail Report of Online Shoppers.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your team that did this report?
Yes,
Okay, great. Then
yes.
I'm talking to the right person.
I hope so.
Yeah, so yeah, let's dig in a little bit more about into this report. What was the main findings of the report?
I mean, I can, I think that I can talk the most about the part that was talking about, what is the future and what can we expect and how things will evolve. It is something that we track closely because, because of our involvement in retail, of course, but also because we do a lot of prototyping, for example, at Valtech, helping our customers really to test and learn, because it's also something, being agile for us is very important. So to answer your questions, what are the findings? I would say maybe one big finding that everybody already know. It's just starting. This evolution is going so fast, and it becomes, I think at this point, it is for many retailers, if they do not integrate all of those technologies to offer a better customer experience, they will simply disappear. And maybe, I don't know if you would like to cover some of those technologies, if you
Yeah,
want me to go that way.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's go into some of them and talk about yeah.
I think the one that we mentioned in the report is, for example, augmented reality. There was a lot of buzz or over the last few years about augmented reality and about virtual reality. Augmented reality is becoming mainstream. Not virtual reality, but I'll tell you about some examples where virtual reality can be very useful in that it's not only about gaming. But for example, for the augmented reality, not only it's becoming mainstream because people realize that they can use it and more people have smartphones, but also because the quality of this augmented reality is definitely increasing. If you think, for example, about Apple, that have launched their augmented reality kit for developers that I'm sure you are aware of,
Yes.
the quality of this is much better than what we have seen in the past.
Right.
You were
Yes.
about to say yes, and it is about the real size of objects that you can place within a certain environment. It has We have seen, for example, a lot of augmented reality application related to the beauty industry, where I can try on some makeup looks without having to do it for real, and I can use it as a tutorial. But it also applies to some other fields that are very different. For example, manufacturing, even health industry, where it can really help to guide someone to better understand what they should do when assembling something, for example.
Hmm.
This is becoming very, very useful and mainstream. And my prediction is that before long, you will see people who will have the natural, behavior of pointing their phone at pretty much everything, because this is where it is going. That I can get information, additional information, by pointing at a product, by pointing at a building, by it's
At a
really
person.
going to the at a person, where so you can really have this information that is so easily accessible, which of course makes the customer experience seamless and easy.
So that's very
uh,
interesting. It's, yeah, definitely Apple with the new release of AR kit has pushed this forward, and I think even Tim Cook is saying that he's most excited about AR as one of the growth areas
it
of
is, I think
technology.
that definitely, because it's just easier to use comparing to VR, where you need a headset.
Right.
However, which is kind of, this is why I think that, VR, we have seen this more in the gaming industry. But I can give you an example, if you don't mind, about something that we did at Valtech for one of our customers using virtual technology
Sure.
with a headset. Um, Valtech, we are working with a retailer that is Decathlon, which is a very, very large European retailer in the sports industry. They are just entering the US market, but they are everywhere else, in Asia, Europe, and as I said, it's a very large company. And one of the challenge, they came to us saying, we would like to find a way to improve, um, the way that we sell tents, for camping,
Hmm.
because their challenge was, we cannot display this on the floor. It takes way too much space. So when customers are coming, it's very difficult for them to understand, from one to the other, what are the features, and to be able to visualize the size. It was very complex. So what we did for them is that we developed sorry, I was switching to French. We developed an application using this headset, which became a tool for their sales associate in store. So as a consumer, I walk in and I want to go for camping. I want my equipment. Then there is a space where I can go and I put this headset, and then guided by the sales associate that can even help me, to change my experience, because the application is complemented by an application on an iPad for the sales associate. So as a consumer, what I can do is that I can select different models of those tents, and I can walk in I can even, there is even a kind of, I would say, an emotional side to it, because I can decide that, oh, there is this fire camp and I am on the top of the mountain, or maybe it's winter, and depending on what they are looking for. And since I can virtually walk around and enter inside, I have really the feeling of what is the space. I can see some details and features that are not necessarily very easy to explain when someone is just showing maybe a picture or something like this.
Right. I
This has
actually
been,
did experience, I did go when I was in New York in the office, I did go into this experience using the headset, which was actually very good. It's very compelling. And Jeff walked me through it. Um,
okay.
so I think that's actually a good use case. I like that in the store for products that just are take a lot of room and you can't just display everything. Um, a quick way for customers to actually experience how it feels to be inside the camping tent.
Yes, and we did something like this with them, and it was successful. They are currently deploying this in many of their stores,
So
but it started.
let me ask you one question. Sorry to cut you
Sure.
off. How do you measure or define success in that case?
Well, for us, it was, it was a step by step. As I said, we really work, in agile process. So we started with one store, and for us, measuring success of this was to say, well, is it compelling for the sales associate? That was one aspect of that, because will they use it, and how is the consumer reacting to this? What are their comments? Or does it make a difference? Would this really help them to make a purchase decision? Because ultimately, this is what you want. And so we did a first version. The first version was, I would say, successful enough, in the sense that we could see that yes, the potential was there, but we needed to improve this experience, which we did. And now we are to the point that the customer is telling us, yes, this works. We have been testing this, and then they started to add a few more stores. They were happy with it, and now they are deploying in many more stores.
So as far as purchases, has this been like documented, or is it something that can be shared, that how much did this actually improve sales, for example?
Um, I cannot, share this information here. I would need, to double check if it is something
Okay.
that we can ask them to share.
Okay, that would be interesting because of course that's ultimately what retailers want to know is how is this going to actually help my bottom line? So
Yes,
that would be good to
which
know.
yeah, which I can understand. I think that for now, what I can say is that if they decide to deploy it, it's certainly because they see a return on it. Otherwise, why
Sure,
would they?
sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that sounds very interesting. And then do you have any AR apps, like similar type of apps that are being developed right now with the customers?
We did. I know that there are some that because as I said, we have many offices, and some of them have been done in other countries. I don't necessarily have all the details, but one that we have been working on was to help customer to visualize for home appliances, how because when you especially when you go online, you know it's kind of difficult to, let's say for example, that you are looking at a refrigerator and
Right.
you want to see inside, and it gives you, yes, they're going to say, oh yes, this is the how much you can contain, but if you do not see, okay, what does it mean in terms of, I don't know, if I have 4 children and I have a lot of bottle of juice and milk or something like this, what am I able really to put in this step? It will, be big enough for my needs. And it is something that can be do in augmented reality. So
Okay.
that's an example. Another thing that we see more is this idea of measurement. So, for example, that you are able to point your phone at something and it's going to give you the measurement. And this becomes interesting because then it's another application for a furniture store when you can, from home, be able to say, okay, I'm going to take this chair and I'm going to place this in my living room, and then I can see how it's going to look like.
Yes, yes, that's a really
To
good use
visual,
case.
yeah, to
Yeah.
visualize. And so they can be so many possible applications for augmented reality. There is one that is about more about fashion that we have seen that actually is not, is not that was not built by Valtech, but an application where if I go in a store, in a fashion store, and I just point my phone, let's say to a skirt, then I can see someone on my phone walking around wearing the skirt. So then I can get the sense of how it is and decide if I really want to try this on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, would it be a correct way of like classifying things that AR is forming more to be for like online shopping and VR more for in-store? I mean, I'm sure both can be done in both cases, but really like as far as like where the majority of use cases are, at least for now.
Yeah, I don't know if I would draw the line like this, honestly. I think that I would need to give it some thought because AR can be very, very useful in store as well.
Right.
Imagine that, imagine that you walk into a drugstore. And quite often, I'm thinking cosmetic right now. I
Mm.
guess that my background, fashion and beauty, is coming back.
Sure.
But you walk in a drugstore, and drugstore, it's not the same thing than Sephora. You do not have those samples at hand, and you can try things. But if you are able to point at a product and then to be able to see it on your face, let's say a lipstick, for example, what is the color, and sit on your face, and then you can decide if you like it. That can make a big difference between saying, I'm not sure, I'll wait, or saying, oh yes, I really like this color, and just I buy it.
Right. No, that's correct. That's true. So, okay, cool. So let's talk about some other things that are, I mean, you've got a list of things like chat apps and blockchain and virtual assistants. How about, okay, let's talk about virtual assistants. Alexa, Google
Yes,
Assistant. Let's talk about that.
that yeah, and it's one topic that I really like because I think that it's something that will change many, many things. I've been saying for a while now, the next point of sale is home. It's the
Hmm.
next point because, and this is what it does. It is becoming easy for now to say, Alexa, and I'm not talking too loud because I have an Alexa here nearby. So, Alexa, buy something or add something to my shopping list. And so it makes you an order something and have it delivered. It makes things so easy that way. But I think it will go even further than that because we have actually, I was saying earlier that at Valtech we do prototypes. We recently did a prototype for one of our customers. I cannot mention the customer because this is confidential. But what we did is that we have built an application on the Google Home and the Alexa as well, and it is something that will go way further. If I need information about a specific brand, about their products, about their location, if you ask Alexa directly without any application built on Alexa, Alexa will give you generic information that is available from searching on the web. But if you build a specific application and you ask Alexa to launch X brand application, and then you start having a conversations, there are a lot of benefits to that. It will give you possibility to have way better information. You can ask information such as the stores, how to take care of the product, or to give you the phone number of customer service. There are many things that can be done. The other benefit of that is that I do not need to say Alexa at each and every sentence once I am within the application. And finally, my other point of view about this, I think that this will become so important and so useful for consumers, and it will not be a trend. It will be something that will really impact the consumer behavior. I think that it will go to the point where brands will want to have their own voice, because we keep saying, when we do branding, we keep saying, oh, what is the tone of voice of your brand, even if we're talking actually about, the copyright and the visual. But now we have a real voice that can represent a brand.
And that actually brings up, and I'm also really into voice as well. We actually just launched a news skill that's focused, using voice. So I think it is definitely something that's going to become more and more a part of how we interface with machines. Um,
Yeah.
so one thing that I just remembered when you said that is that the actual voice is also important. And for example, right now the voice is only Alexa. It's something that's recorded. What if the voice of this digital assistant was actually a personalized, a somebody like, if Valtech's skill actually had Lynn speaking as Alexa?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It
Yeah,
has to be representative of the brand, because you I mean, I don't know, let's imagine, why would um, why would Nike have the same voice than Chanel? It,
right,
they are different brands, they have different positioning, and they target different customers, so they should have their own voice. And
exactly.
and for me, that's what I see. I said this is where it will go sooner than later. Brands will consider, this, and even, what is the language? Am I talking to a teenager? Then my vocabulary should be different, and all, instead of having something that is always the same for everybody.
Exactly.
So, if you go back, think of Virgin Mobile. If you call the customer service, the even recorded or not, customer service will have a specific language that is very teenager, and because it is aligned with their positioning.
Right, right.
And so it should be the same thing on those devices.
Exactly. So the next POS is the home, and the next interface is the voice. So
Yes.
what is our life going to be like in 5 years in the home?
I think it will become this, seamless experience where everything can be commanded by voice, and that we can structure and organize everything. Think about, and I say structure everything. Think about, for example, the Amazon Look. It goes to the point to tell you what you should wear. So we will
Mhm.
become, is it good or bad? I think it's a mix of both, but I think we will become more and more dependent of all those technology to, on one hand, to make our lives easier, but on the other hand, also to guide us. I think people will shop very differently. And if I want to go in a physical store, because we still need to keep in mind that, some of the retailers are very, very successful still. And to me, I think it's just a matter of what is the experience, why should I go to a store? The stores are no longer kind of distribution centers. I should have a specific experience, but still then I can be in contact, in touch with the product itself, because there are many products that we still want to touch or maybe to smell, or there are different things that are still important, but it will become more and more important that this is an enjoyable experience. Otherwise,
Right.
otherwise I can do it from home.
Well, voice is also really, for my own use case, is really limited when I'm alone. I mean, it's a lot more. What I should say is that voice is a lot more effective when I'm alone. But when I'm out in, at work or in an office or in the middle of a crowd, it's not the same experience.
Yeah, and actually I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but there was a study about this, saying how do people use voice recognition, and you're absolutely right. A certain percentage of people will use it when they are out of home, but most of the time it is home. And will this change as maybe public space add this option? Maybe it will.
Right.
And how can I interact with this? But some people will see that at this point today, some people will say that they are not comfortable having a conversation with Alexa when they are, I don't know, in the subway.
Right. And, I mean, so technology is going to change to the point where actually, so right now, anybody that says Alexa, Alexa is going to answer, right? But what if
Mhm.
Alexa exactly knew my voice and would only do what I said? Then it
Yeah.
becomes, that's the next level of really personalization, where she's really, or it is really just my assistant. It's not anybody in my home that just calls the name.
Yes. And and it's something that we can easily imagine, because of the voice recognition technology that is evolving and evolving very fast, because it is also coupled with artificial intelligence. So which means that not only it would be your personal assistant, and your spouse would have her personal assistant, and so on. It's just also that the conversation would be different, because all of this artificial intelligence behind will serve you or suggest you content that will be different based on your personal interest
Right, right.
and need and history. And
Yeah, so the other place where voice is really useful for me is like in the car when I'm driving. That's like the one of the best use cases, and I think it's really like good if people actually get to use that. So I've been trying. I'm an iPhone user. I've been trying like setting up appointments using just telling Siri to do it, and she's Siri is almost there. It's still not 100% there, but I wish they would like improve that experience so that it becomes a um, lot more natural. And so, but that's like in the car also. It's very very interesting, and also like even consuming media via a dictated like a voice reading things to you. For example, like if you want to consume news or any kind of information, is it going to say it out loud, or can you actually like maybe put a headset and connect it to a device that is mobile next to you, that only you can read what your assistant is telling you, or you can only listen? So
yes, and this and here again I would go back to the quality, because all these audiobooks, um, it has been out there for I don't know how many years now, but not very popular because of the quality of the reading. It doesn't have this kind of emotion that it should have in the text. And but now things are evolving, and the
Right.
more it will evolve, and the language is natural, the more popular it will be, because there is nothing easier than just having a conversation. You don't need to write something. It goes at the speed that you think about it, comparing to when you write, and or just having to download a video or different things. It's just kind of more natural interaction, I should say.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, well, we don't have time to get into all of these things. There's so many different things that are happening. I like to just close by talking about chat apps and chatbots. Um, that's like, especially outside, even like in China and Southeast Asia, I think it's really growing, and how people are interfacing and actually even shopping using chat apps.
Yes, this is another technology that, to me, when I saw chatbot, at first I was, yes, this is very interesting, and I've been, you could ask around at the office. I've been always pushing and saying we need to work with chatbot. This will be very strong and will be very popular. But there were some, let's say, limitations to this, that as it becomes mixed with artificial intelligence, are gradually disappearing. But the benefit of the chatbot, I would say a lot is about customer service. How many companies do you talk to that offer customer service, and you have someone who is answering to you, and they go and they ask same question to each and every customer, and it is very generic. A chatbot can do that very easily, but as long as the chatbot has limitation, you also need to provide the customer with an easy way to at one point switch to a human being that can bring the conversation to the next step, because what the chatbot could do was not enough.
Right.
But same here. This is evolving. The other thing that I like from chatbot, if we think, for example, that it is integrated into those messaging platforms. So there is Facebook, that is one that everybody knows. But yes, there is in China WeChat, and there are others. But the fact that it's so easy also to connect to a chatbot. I just become friend with a chatbot, and then there is this relation, and I can even buy products from the chatbot. I can renew product, but now it can also go the other way, meaning that, for example, if I friend a chatbot, and there is a new product that I am interested in, the chatbot can send me a message to say, hey, we have this new collection, or we have this new product that just in. So it's not only the customer contacting the chatbot, but the chatbot contacting the consumer, without, however, being too,
Intrusive.
invasive.
Right.
Exactly. Yes. Because otherwise, then any customer will just
Yeah.
remove the chatbot.
Right.
But if it is done in a proper way, I think that, yes, it is another channel that is very interesting. The other thing also to mention is that, now, if we think specifically about the Facebook one, is that now you can integrate this to any website. So, which means that it's become easy to create something for a chat that will be directly on your website.
Right. Right. So other than the chat itself, I feel that the messaging apps are even a much bigger opportunity for retail. So how WeChat and WhatsApp, and just the connection that they have to consumers is just growing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it
So
is. It is an amazing platform, because in having chatbot living on the Messenger platform, then you can go quite far, because most consumers, most people have a messenger application on their phone already. So it means no need to download a new application.
Right. So, and thinking about how discovery is done by customers, by consumers for shopping. Initially, really, it was just Google. You go to Google for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the studies are showing that half of the people actually are not even going to Google when they want to buy something. They just go to Amazon. Now, what if people just actually even just went directly inside their messaging app and did all their discovery, or some or all of it, just within the messaging app without even going outside?
Yes, it's another channel. You know, when I think that the key word here is omni-channel. That we are, it's a buzzword that we are hearing all the time, but it
Right.
is to be able to build this strategy that will use a channel like the messenger application, and how can you make this create an easy connection with the customer that is not isolated, but that is part of everything else, and any other touch point that you have with the consumer, that it becomes a unique experience for them.
Yeah, yeah. So in general, I think the message and or the lesson is that it's it's not easy to be in retail anymore. You have to cover all of these different things, right?
Yes and no, because cover everything. I think that retailers have to be careful with this. It has to be smart in the sense that you do not have to be everywhere. You have to be where your consumers are. You need to be able to really understand your customers, and then decide what are the channels that I should use, what are the ones that are the most important, where it will allow me as a retailer or as a brand to really build this connection with my consumers, and which of those touch points are not very important to me and to my customers, so that it's not worth it to spend energy, money, on those channels. It has to be done. That's an exercise that we do with our customer, to really define, where are your customers, because the customers are not coming to us, to you. You have to go to them. So you have to know where they are.
Right. I think what I meant mostly was that, let's say you are an omnichannel brand, even like a direct-to-consumer brand.
Mm-hmm.
You may not actually be doing all of these things, but you need to know about them. You need to know about AR and VR, and what's happening in that, what's happening with the chat apps and messaging apps and virtual assistants and in-store and customer service and payment and analytics and data. And of course, some of these are musts, some of them are not, and then you talk to the different channels. So that's what I meant is, like, in order to run a successful business, you need to have an eye on all of these at least, and
Yes.
understand what's going on. That's where, like, think companies like Valtech or other agencies can really come in handy, because if you go search for this thing, you can spend a lifetime just trying to understand what's happening, and then by the time you get anything, tomorrow is going to change.
Yes, and this is why I think you were mentioning the NRF earlier. I think this is why you have so many people going to the NRF, because they want to know what's going on. And as you know, because you told me that you were there, it's something that we do at Valtech, that we organize what we call the Innovation Lab, where we invite people to discover all of those different technologies, and showing them prototypes or specific use cases, that how it can be applied to the retail, which really help them to start thinking about, oh, okay, I could do this, I could do that, and then help them to get to the real information that is important to them, without, as you say, spending all their time trying to search all of this, because it's a never-ending process.
Yes, yes. So, well, on that note, I think I will let you get back to work and help customers. So thank you
Thank you.
so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and hopefully we'll get to meet at one of the events. Are you going to Shop Talk?
No, I'm not, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right.
But maybe another time. It will
That's
be a pleasure.
well, that's the other thing is like the event fatigue also. There's like so many different events. Uh,
Yeah, and
you can
it's not
spend all,
possible to be to
yeah,
be everywhere. No.
right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Lynn, and
Thank
look
you.
forward to hearing more and more exciting stuff coming out from Valtech.
Thank you very much.
All right. That was good. Um, so, yeah, there's like so much to talk about. We could spend the whole day
Yeah.
just going into all of these things.
Yes,
So,
exactly. I was like, oh my God, there was this, was this. Because the list that you had sent, I was like, okay, this I can say this, I can say this, and you're just like, okay, but this will last forever.
yeah, yeah. So, no, this is good. It's a very exciting time to be actually in retail. I actually interviewed the CEO of a company called OceanX, which is a direct to consumer technology company yesterday, and the thing that we both agreed was that how it is overwhelming, but it's also very exciting if you love learning about new things and you love helping customers and figuring things out. It's like a very exciting time to live.
Yes, because it's, I think that we are definitely in the middle of a kind of a revolution, and everything is changing. And most large companies specifically, they are simply at loss because they have those huge infrastructure and their way of working, and they are kind of disconnected with everything that is going on because it goes too fast. Of course, they have some information about it, but not enough. And they come to us and they're like, okay, help us. What should we do?
Right.
Did, because they don't know. And we work at many different levels. I mean, there is a company that I cannot mention either, but there's a company that they came to us to say, we want our store to be digital, and we want to workshop with them and discussion. And at one point we told them, well, the first thing that you need to do is to change your positioning.
Hmm.
And they were like, oh, really? When we said, yes, you're fighting against Amazon. What are you doing? You will not win this battle.
Right.
But you can, if you change your positioning, then you are in a niche where Amazon will not fight with you. And so they were like, okay. And then they are doing it. They are in the process of making a change on the way they present themselves, and still they want to, really integrate it, digital technology inside their stores, and making all of this omni-channel, because like many others, they had silos. Website is one thing, application is one thing, the store is one thing. No, it's just one unique thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest problem with
Yes.
with them. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, great. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much. Have a nice day. I,
Thank
I
you.
will send you a link to you and also to John, was it? I forget the name of the gentleman that contacted me, but I'll share it with you. We connected on LinkedIn when I
Okay.
have the episode up. Now, one more question. Do you
Hmm.
also look after the marketing for Valtech or
No,
marketing
no. So
consulting with customers only?
it's for customers. Yes, the
Right.
marketing is, we have a department that does that, and it's not me.
Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Great talking with you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.